Welcome back, everybody, to Unconditional Surrender, me, myself, and I playthrough of the main event scenario. We are getting ready to go into Western Operations phase of 1944. The weather has turned upon the Germans. It is fair in the mild zone, which means playing a little bit of the theme song from The Longest Day. Dun 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 dun. The Western Allies have a lot to do here, so this is probably going to be a very long turn. I might even have to break it into two parts. First off, Fighter Command is going to go after the Luft Reserve. Fighter Command starts off at +1. The Germans start off at +2. Germans have to make a decision here. At what point do I use my jets to try and foil offensive operations? I thought of using it when the bombers came, but right now I think I need to use it now to try and stuff the British Air Force as best as I can. It's either here or the one down in southern Germany, and I think here is more. I have far less units here and a lot more open space that the Western Allies can probably take advantage of. So I'm going to go ahead and play my my Jets marker right now, which will give the Germans an extra +2. So it's +1 to +4. And the British roll, a 1 + 1 is a 2. That's not good. And the Germans roll, a 5 + 4 is a 9. And if you check, a 2 to a 9 is 3 sorties that the Fighter Command takes. And the Germans take 1 sortie. And then their Jets marker will come back next turn. So they get to do that basically once a turn till the end of the game, as long as they have an airplane that can do something. Well, with that in mind, I'm going to send the second RAF after this plane southeast of Paris, 6th Luft. The Germans now are only +1, just like me, because they're -1 for sortie. +2 for German, -1 for sortie. So it's +1 to +1, and the British roll. A 6 + 1 is a 7. The Germans roll. A 3 + 1 is a 4. And a 7 to a 4 is a 2 for 1 to the British. So the British take a sortie, and the Germans take 2. So now the Germans are a net of, +2, -3, they're at a -1, and the British are at a 0. They're going to use that same airplane, the second RAF. Oops, I've got that backwards. There we go. -1 on the defender, not the attacker. At least not yet. And second RAF rolls a 6 again. So that's a straight up 6. The Germans roll a 6. -1 is a 5. That means we each take 1 sortie. Now we'll put the Germans up to -2 and the British up to -1. And again, they will go after them. -1 to -2. British roll. 5 -1 is a 4. Germans roll. 3 -2 is a 1. 4 to a 1 is a +2 sorties, so we've neutralized that airplane. And we ended up taking a total of 6 sorties between our 2 aircraft, but it was kind of the only way to get this done. I'm tempted to play a surprise attack marker here in France rather than to do an invasion, to see if I can't get a semi-major breakout on these armored units, push them around a bit. The Americans will be able to rebuild theirs right away. And if we do well enough, we might even launch an invasion this turn as well later on with Patton. So first things first, as they say. Go to the faction card. We're going to take the American surprise marker. I'm going to drop it in here. I think that's about the right place. It's within 2 hexes of Le Havre. 1 hex of the 5th Panzer, which means even if it retreats, I'll still get my +1 on it. And within 1 hex of the 3rd Panzer, so same thing, I can get extra +1s on it. So I'm going to try and push these Panzers around, maybe do something interesting. I don't know. First thing we have to do, because the American airplane is barely in range, he's going to fly to Nantes and take a sortie for that. It's just because I want to use him next. Then I activate the first armored. We're going to attack the 5th Panzer. And no, I'm not going to drop a paradrop marker on it. If I end up using my paradrop marker, it's going to be on something like Le Havre or something to try and guarantee taking that hex or something like that. I'm paranoid about rolling a 6 on that paradrop marker. I need it to break some of these river lines and things later on in the summer. Like I stated in the German turn, because I got this bonus, I got this lucky die roll and got a fair weather turn in April. May, June, one of those turns has to be fair, and then there's 3 fair turns after that. So the Western Allies will have 5 fair weather turns in 1944, which could be decisive. So the Germans can't add anything to their Panzer. And the only thing I can do here, I don't think I have anything else I can play. I don't have any, well, I do have a free forces. I'm going to keep that out and think about that. Let me see where I'm at before I decide whether I'm going to throw anything extra in. I think I might save that for a different hex. So the Americans start off at plus, the Germans are, let's just do the defenders. Germans are +2 for German and +2 because they're armor. And the Americans are +1 because they're American, +2 because they're armor. And then they're going to throw in their airplane, since it can go in unopposed. Gives them +2 for that, and then they get +1 for the surprise attack marker. So it's +6 to a +4. I'm really only trying to get the Germans to retreat. So I'm just trying to see which way they're going to go. And let's see what happens. The Americans roll. 1 +6 is a 7. The Germans roll. A 2 +4 is a 6. That's a diamond. That costs 2 movement points from the Americans. They'll spend 2 more. And do it again. This time, I think I'm going to throw in the free forces. Give me an extra +1. I really kind of need to push this armored unit to make everything work. So we're going to throw the free forces in on this attack. Gives me a +7 to a +4. And the Americans roll. 4 +7 is 11. Germans roll. 3 +4 is a 7. And an 11 to a 7 is just a DR. So the Germans have to think about this. Normally you would think, hey, retreat to 33-11 and kind of maintain the line, but that opens up lots of horrible things. I could go to 3-1-1-1, but then I'm pushing way north. I could go to 32-11, kind of have a... Let's see, Americans have 6 movement points. They got 3 more attacks in them if they want. They have to use all their airplanes up to do that, but where do I go with the Germans? I guess I want to try and retard their advance straight on through the channel ports, right? They run to the south. They can't really attack Bordeaux. If I go to 32-11, though, they could go 1, 2, 3, 4. Could spend 4 movement points, end up in 33-12, and then the British 1st Canadian could move up and attack me like 4 times. I wouldn't be isolated, but I would be having no retreat, so any DR would flip me and make it even easier for them to take me down. Oh, that's a dilemma in and of itself, isn't it? I guess I'm going to go to 33-11 just to try and avoid being surrounded, right? I think that's the right move. I'm not sure. The Americans have 6 movement points left. If they take the Hesse, it would cost 3 to go across the river, and they'd only be +5 to +4. So that's not the best. Before I do that, Oh, the Americans have to advance. Americans are not going to take the hex at this point. I think I'm going to cross the river and attack him twice that way. I have to roll for my free forces. So Americans roll a 3. It's coming back in. 1, 2, 3. I'll be back in July. So they'll be back for fair weather later on. I think I'm going to go ahead and move the first armored into 3310, which is a movement point. And then attack again using another sortie. I'm still within 2 of the surprise attack markers, so I am +6 to +4. And let's just see what happens. The Americans roll. 4 + 6 is a 10. The Germans roll. 3 + 4 is a 7. 10 to a 7 is just enough for another DR. Now the Germans have to think about proper defensive lines here. I could retreat across the river to 3211, but then he's got 3 movement points left, which is 1, 2, 3. He gets in the same position. So I have to go back to 3312. I kind of open up the south to Bordeaux for like next turn or something, but at least my panzer is intact. And now the Americans could go take the hex and could attack one more time just to see if they can't push me a little farther, which might be the thing to do because I'll have the 1st Canadian and the 1st BEF, so I'll have things I can do here with this surprise attack marker. So yeah, we're going to do it one more time. That's my last 2 movement points. And I will throw in the airplane so that I end up at that same +6 to +4. And see what I roll. US rolls. 5 + 6 is an 11. And the Germans roll. 4 + 4 is an 8. So if we go check, I believe an 11 to 8 is the same thing. Yeah, it's a DR. So the Germans have to retreat again, and they're just going to basically retreat one more hex to 3313. Americans will take 3312. And this will become apparent why I'm doing it this way in just a moment. And that's the American attack. And now we're going to activate the BEF for 2 from the British. 1, 2, 3, 4. They can move to 3010 for 4. That leaves them with 6 movement points. And then they'll spend 3 of those movement points to attack Cherbourg. Now the Germans start off at +2 for German, -2 for a garrison. The British start off at +1 because they're British. And they get +2 for isolated. And then they're going to go to their faction card. And they're going to throw a tanks marker. So that gives them another +2. And then they're going to use a sortie on the 2nd RAF to make it another +2. So that's +7, and then I have to subtract 1 for the city. So I'm a +6 to a 0, and he only has 1 step, so even a DR eliminates him. So we roll. A 2 + 6 is an 8. They actually can get away if I roll a 6. They rolled a 5. An 8 to a 5 is a DR. He cannot retreat, so he is eliminated, but he doesn't lose any will points for that because it's just a garrison. This becomes Allied control as I take the hex. And I have 3 movement points left, so I'm going to use those to go out of Cherbourg 1 and into 3011 2, and then my activation. So now I have a pretty good push out of the Brittany Peninsula. Oh, forgot to put the British tanks back on the marker. There we go. So far so good. Now the 1st Canadian is going to make a concerted push here and see where we can go. 1, 2 to 3111, where I put the surprise attack marker. We'll attack the 3rd Panzer. I will throw in an airplane from Fighter Command. And I will start off at, I think I end up at +6 to +4. +1 for British, +2 because he's armored, +2 for an airplane, +1 for surprise attack marker. Germans are +2 because they're German, and +2 because they're armor. And that costs me 4 movement points, which leaves me with 6. That's 2 to move in and 2 to attack the hex. So here we go. The British roll a 6. Hey, the British roll good. 6 plus 6 is 12. And the Germans roll a 6 as well. +4 is a 10. And a 12 to a 10 is a diamond. So the British are going to do that again. They'll use the second Luft this time. And it's the same odds, just only have 4 movement points left. And the British roll 5 plus 6 is 11. Germans roll 2 plus 4 is a 6. So 11 to 6, I believe, is DR. Yes, it is. Just barely missed being able to get a DD on them. So the Germans have to retreat, so they'll go back to 31-13. Of course, the Canadians... Oh, hey, can't move the... Stop. Can't do that. I moved the surprise attack marker as well. Can't do that. And they still have 4 movement points left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They can still use the second RAF to get another +4, +6, which seems like that might be a good thing to do right here. Yeah, I think that's a good thing to do. So we'll spend 2 more movement points, and we'll use up the last of the second RAF to attack 3rd Panzer again at +6, +4. And the British roll a 3. +6 is a 9. Not a good die. Germans roll a 4 + 4 is an 8. That's a diamond. And we'll use our last dude just to see if we can push them. And we'll use 1 air off of the fighter command. Gives me that same +6 to +4. And British roll 5 + 6 is an 11. Germans roll 6 + 4 is a 10. So that's all the farther the Germans are moving this turn. They aren't backing out of that space. Now comes the question of whether I should... I know I'm going to get an American surprise attack marker back. So I'm thinking I should go ahead and throw the British one here in C-Zone 10 and attack at 29-13 so I can place a Mulberry if I fail to take Le Havre. I'll still have a port. So that sounds like a good thing for me to do. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I activate the third U.S. Army, and then I call for an amphibious assault using the 3rd Convoy, and Med Fleet is escorting the 3rd Convoy. Because the Germans do have... Oh, they don't have it yet. I don't need to escort. I'm going to leave the Med Fleet out of this. No reason to it's going to raise a sortie either way. I want it there to escort. So Med Fleet is going to escort. We are attacking 29... where's my... I forgot to put that out there. I said I was going to do this, and I didn't put it on the board. I put that out there. And then I'm also going to place the... I'm going to try and take the hex. So I'm also going to waste my paradrop marker here. It's going to land on Le Havre. And then I activate this guy for an amphibious assault. So... And since it's an empty hex, I get to land. And then I will attack. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have an American airplane. So use him up to 6. I have an escorting fleet, an airdrop marker, and a surprise attack marker that's on land, which gives me an extra +1. So doing the math, the Germans start off at +2, but they're under an airdrop marker, so they're down to 0. The Americans, Patton here, starts at +1 because he's an American, +2 because he's armor, +2 because he threw in an airplane, +2 for the Navy, and Le Havre is also isolated. That's why the BEF moved where it did. So it's another +2. So I'm a +9. I think I'm actually +10. Let me go through that again. Did I use the surprise attack marker? 1 because I'm American, +2 because I'm armored, +2 for an airplane, +2 for the Navy, +2 for isolated, +1 for the surprise attack marker that's in 3111. And then I have to subtract 1 because it's a city. So I'm only +9 to 0. Let's see if we can get a DD result here. And the Americans roll. Patton rolls a 6. I have a 15. I can't remember. I think a 15. Even a 6 is a DD. So no matter what happens, that German infantry unit is going to pass away. So the 12th is annihilated by Patton. Bring up the faction card here. Put it over here, I guess. German infantry goes into the eliminated box. Flip it, just make my life easier. The national tracks for the Germans go down by 1 will point. Yay! Chipping away at it. And then we will take the hex. And the... I don't know how to do this. I'm just going to put them out here in the C zone and add a sortie to each. Then I'm going to have Force H and this convoy. Let's see, I spent 3 British so far. Did I take off 3 off the British? No, I did not. I only took off 2. Oh, it should be 4. They're both mobile units. So, the British are down to 30. Doesn't matter. We're still going to take Force H and number 4 convoy. And they're going to move into Z Zone 10 and then 2 or whatever this is. Z Zone 2 and then into the box. So that's 5. And then over... I have my little jumpy thing up. And then over into the Western United States. They take a sortie for that. And then they are going to pick up the 1st French Army is going to activate, since it's American. And then they're going to bring it back. And they go 3, 4, 5 into C Zone 10. And then they're going to end at Cherbourg. With the... Oh. And I'm going to put the 2 Navy units on this side of Cherbourg. And they take another sortie each. Oops, don't want to do it that way. And I have a fair contingent. I've broken the Seine at Le Havre, although it's fairly easily contained from Calais. I used up 2 surprise attack markers, but I have another American one coming. So that's not a bad thing. I used up a lot of my airplanes, but the Germans are low on airplanes, and I have Americans that I can rebuild quickly. So I'll at least match them with the Americans, and then the British will be at a 4 and a 3. So they probably should just go off and try and do bombing, even though it's horrible odds. Newcastle is at -2 for being a bomber, -3 for sorties, and then +1 because he's American, and the Germans are at +2. So by the way, just to kind of point out, you can see the airdrop marker makes a huge difference in being able to take occupied cities in invasions. The land surprise attack marker was placed specifically there so I could have an extra +1 on Le Havre. And then the Navy and the airplanes and the, that's normally a +7. Oh, I forgot to take off. I took off more. I had to take off a second one. Maybe I didn't eliminate him. Well, I rolled a... What did I roll? I rolled ridiculously high. I rolled a 6, so it would have been +8. So I would have had a 14. And if he rolled a 6, he would have lived. So we're going to redo this here real quick. The Germans roll a 5, so they didn't live. So, okay, it worked anyway. There was a 1 in 6 chance that they could survive that. And then I would have placed the mulberry, and I still would have been sitting there with him surrounded and a step down. But they rolled a 5, so it still worked out. But I forgot to take off the fact that you're -1 for attacking a unit on an amphibious invasion. So I took 1 off for the city, but I didn't take off 1 for the other. So I would have been +8, and I rolled a 6, so that's a 14. And he had to roll a 6 to survive, and he rolled a 5. So it worked. But anyway, it gives you a huge amount of pluses by inadvertently by making them not have their pluses. That puts them on a regular die roll. And it makes a difference. Really good offensive action here. I mean, the Germans could try to run around and capture Nantes, I suppose. Then they'd just be kicked out by the French army. First French army. I suppose I could, because I'm within 3 hexes with the BEF. 1, 2, 3. So I could play that shenanigan. I'm going to do a quick shenanigan here. First American convoy goes zip into London. The London guy activates and comes back with the convoy into Nantes. So at least it's garrison. And the American convoy takes 2 sorties to do that. So, shenanigans. Yeah. It's worth it to pull off the shenanigans. That keeps him, even if he wants to run up there, he's not really going to cut me off. He can come up and isolate the first army. There's nothing I can do about that. So it's possible I might lose an American army if the Germans decide to attack it in May. Depends on the weather, I suppose. So now we get to shift over to the French and Italian front in along the northern Italian border. Part of me wants to say screw trying to force the second at this point and try to push him back through the Alps. That's very hard to do. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to do some airplanes. First RAF goes against the 6th Luft. The British are at +1. Germans are at +2. Let's see how bad this is. British roll 4 + 1 is a 5. The Germans roll a 6 + 2 is an 8. 5 to an 8 is 2 on the British, of course. And only 1 on the Germans. So then we will send the American airplane, because they'll both be at +1. And see how this die roll goes. Americans are, like I said, a very long turn here. Dang it, turn off. Very long turn here. The Americans fly up to Munich, +1 to +1. They rolled a 5, so that's a 6. The Germans rolled a 2, that's a 3. 6 to a 3 is the Germans take 2, and the Americans take 1. So now the Germans are up to +3, -3, +2, so they're at a net of -1. And the Americans are at a 0, so they're going to go after them again. The Americans roll a 3, and the Germans roll 6 -1 is a 5. 3 to a 5 is the Americans take 2. Germans take 1, so they're now at 4. Americans are at 3. The British will fly at -1 to the German -2. The British roll 3 -1 is a 2. Germans roll 5 -2 is a 3. A 2 to a 3 is 1 each. Pretty sure. Yep, 2, 3 is 1 each. So they go up to 5, and the British are up to 3. I'm going to take an extra sortie on the American to eliminate that airplane. And then the American armor. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'd be busting in through the south of France, threatening to run around his flank. Or I can just have the 9th hold here and have the 5th try and push through Germany. I think we're going to go north. So 1, 2, 5th American Army activates, and we'll attack the 17th. Not at very good odds. They'll throw in their airplane. So they're +1 because they're American, +2 because they're armor, +2 for an airplane, -1 for the rough terrain. And the Germans are +2 because they're Germans. And I don't have anything else left I can play to change events around. So there's that. So the Americans roll 3 + 4 is a 7. The Germans roll a 1 + 2 is a 3. On the combat results table, 7 to 3 is a DR. So they retreat. And the Americans will take the hex. I should be keeping track of. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That cost me 5, so it left me with 5 movement points. And then I'll have 1 left because they're going to cost 1 for the hex, 1 for the unit, 2 for the hex, I should say. 1 for the unit and 1 for the ridgeline. So it'll be 4 movement points to attack the 17th again. I'll use up the last of the American sorties and just see how this goes. The Germans are still at +2. I think I'm only at +3. I'm +1 because I'm American, +2 because I'm armored, +2 for my airplane, -1 for the ridge, -1 for the hex. So it's a +3 to a +2. Not very good odds, but I got nothing else to do with my movement points, so might as well. 5 + 3 is an 8. Germans roll. A 2 again. 2 + 2 is a 4. 8 to a 4 is a DR again. So I haven't DM'd him or anything, but so now he's got to retreat probably to the rail line in front of Munich. And the Americans will take the hex. Because that causes other problems. And then we're going to go over here and we're going to activate more British units. We're going to activate the 8th Army. And it's going to attack the 18th. And it will use its airplane. So he'll be +1 for British, +2 for armor, +2 for airplane, -1 for the terrain, and the Germans are +2. And so here we go. And that cost me 3, so I still have 7 left. And here we go. The British roll a 1 + 4 is a 5. The Germans roll a 1 + 2 is a 3. My Vassal just wants to keep the die rolls close. 5 to a 3, I think it's a DR. Yes, it is. Okay. This one has to retreat to that hex. He doesn't have a choice. I think I'm going to have the British take the hex. They can attack the Africa army. If they attack the 18th and get away with another retreat, they could take that hex, and the 10th could come over and seal the Africa army against Yugoslavia somewhat. Make it have to take the long way around to get into defensive positions. Africa army might attack the 10th, but I'll have armor and 1 airplane left. So I think this might be worth it. We're going to go ahead and throw this in. We're going to do like we did with the Americans. It costs 4 to attack this guy. So it leaves me with 3. So I attack the 18th, and I'm only +3 to +2. And I get, as far as die rolls go, a 4 + 3 is a 7. The Germans roll a 6. Plus 2 is an 8. So a 7 to an 8 is a diamond. Just pop that up so you can see what I'm talking about. So they don't go anywhere. I have 3 movement points left, so I'm going to go ahead and attack the Africa army. I'll be at a plus 4. Yeah, we'll use up our last airplane. Let's take a chance here. Plus 4 to plus 2 and see what we get. Oh, 6 plus 4 is a 10. The Germans roll. 5 plus 2 is a 7. I think that's a... No, it's a DR. 10 to a 7 is a DR. Right? 6 plus 4 is 10. 5 plus 2 is 7. Yep. So I made him to retreat. I mean, technically the Africa Corps could like retreat down to the rail line by Venice. Why, I don't know. They could retreat up against the Yugoslavian border. Again, why, I don't know. I'm going to retreat into good defensive terrain. I'm going to go over the ridge and into the woods of 3326. And, I don't think I'm going to take... I don't think I'm going to take the hex with the British. I like them sitting on the rail line. They do have to activate the 9th to put it in a better defensive position. Giving up Turin, but if he really wants to come back to Turin, I kind of look forward to it because then I could surround him and crush him with just bloody garrisons. So I go 1 and then 2 for the river, 3, 4 to get into 3620 by a 3521. And that's another production point for the British. Down to 27. And what to do with the 10th? There's so many options here. I could go nutso with the 10th and go 3, 4, 5, 6. I could go to 3324. But I don't see the point of that. Well, if I needed to do an assault with poor weather next turn, that would be immensely helpful, wouldn't it? The 2nd Infantry could try to dislodge the 9th. But by that time, I'm going to have airplanes and tanks back, so I can probably counter whatever he's going to do. Attacking out of that hex is kind of a silly thing to do with the British. 1, 2, 3, 4. I could also move to 3426, which would let me go back and capture Trieste if I needed to. And, forcing the Africa army or somebody to stay in that hex. Otherwise, I can sneak around the south of Germany and go run after Vienna or some silly butt thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Couldn't get anywhere, but I'm going to be aggressive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With only 3 movement points left, I can attack, but I am sitting in a good spot for next turn. That's takes me down to 26. I have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Yeah, I'm going to have problems. All right, and then we have to go, let's go do the horrible things I was starting to do with the Americans in Newcastle. They are at -3 for sorties, -2 for a bomber, +1 because they're who they are. And the Germans are at a net of 0, +2 for German, -2 for sorties. And again, we go and fly at, doesn't really matter, Dusseldorf. So we're going after Dusseldorf. It's a 0 to a -4. The Germans roll 6 at a -4. If I roll a 6, I only take 2 sorties instead of 3. I didn't. So I take 3 sorties. Ouch. And he takes 1. So now he's at a net of -1. And I'll go with the guy in Hull. So it's -1 to -4. And the Germans roll. Hello, Germans roll. A 5. -1 is a 4. Best I can get is a 2. A 4 to a 2 is 2 sorties. And now they're at -2 net. And the British are at -4, so they're going to fly to the same place. And the Germans roll 6 -2 is a 4, so they do 2 sorties to the British. And they're up to 5 sorties. Let's see, that would make them a -3 net. So I'd have to roll a 6 to stop me. I really would like to get a bombed marker in there, but I really don't want to run up to 6 sorties. You know, I think I'm going to have to... I can't let them go. The Americans will fly again into Dusseldorf. They're at minus ridiculous. They can only get a 1. Germans have to roll a 6 because they're at a net of -3. Germans have to roll a 6. They rolled a 3. So the Americans finally got through. Get to place a bombed marker down here. And I'm going to have the British go up to 6 and do Aachen because the Germans at -4 can't stop me. So I got 2 bombed markers in. I'm not going to be able to do much next turn, especially if it's fair weather. But so that's 4, 10, 13, 16, 19, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, so now I have to do supply. So I have the home fleet, the home garrison. Let's see, what have I got? I got 1, 2, all the way by... I can't get out through Le Havre. So the first army has to go on this American. And I think I'm going to do the 3 British on the British convoy over here. Oh no, I'm going to do... Yeah, I'm going to do it on this British convoy with the American 4th Fleet. So that takes care of the 3 British ground units that are in France. The American that's in Le Havre. Oh, actually, no, I'm only going to do 2 British units. Let me do this right. So the Home Guard and the 1st Canadian go through Brest. The BEF and the American will go through the American convoy in Le Havre. And then this American here is actually going to go down and go through the USA 1 in Nantes along with the 1st Army. Okay, so that's supply for them. Then we gotta go do the Middle East here, or the Italian front. I have 4 British units, so we know what that means. This is kind of like the standard thing. Up 2, and then the American convoy down here will go up 2 to supply the Americans. And that is supply. So this has gone a little bit long, but it looks like I got everything done for the allies that needs to get done. So we will quickly go to the end of this phase. That is the end of the operations phase for the Western faction. This is Dren 608. If you like my videos, please subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And we will return shortly with the Soviet April 1944 operations phase. Until then, bye-bye.